Track 2.2. 1.
It's minus 10 degrees Celsius and there's a lot of ice everywhere. On cars, on trees, on houses. The ice is 10 centimeters thick in some places. In a strange way, it's beautiful to look at, but icy roads are dangerous for drivers and pedestrians. And there are many homes in the area without electricity. We're expecting a little snow this afternoon.
2.
There is some snow on the ground, and already it's impossible to see more than a few meters ahead. There isn't any fog, but the wind is blowing the snow into my face. It's difficult just to open my eyes. It's very cold, it's very windy, and this reporter is very glad to be going inside now.
3.
It began this morning. The sky became very cloudy and the air felt stormy. There were a few showers and it was windy too. Everyone knew what was happening, and many people left their homes and went inland, away from the coast. Now there's a lot of rain and the wind is extremely strong. Nobody is outside. It isn't safe.
Track 2.3.
Greece is hotter than the UK. It isn't as warm as yesterday. Yesterday, London was as hot as Athens. Libya is much hotter than Canada.
Track 2.4.
There are two people in the doorway of a house. They are cleaning up after a flood. They are wearing trousers and hoodies. The boy on the left has a blue t-shirt and red shorts. He's crying. Next to him there's a man with a blue bucket. He is emptying the water into a container. The water in the street is brown and muddy. Behind them there is a woman. She looks very unhappy.
Track 2.5. 1.
Bye, Mum. I'm off to school now. See you about 4.
Don't forget your coat. It might rain this afternoon.
OK, I've got it.
2.
I can just see the tornado on the horizon, but it's very dark out there.
It's the storm clouds. Shall we go out and take a closer look?
I feel safer here because we can take cover in the cellar. And what about your lunch?
I'll finish it later. I'm going out to take a look. Bye, darling.
3.
The sun's so hot. Shall we get an ice cream?
Oh, not yet. I'm still full from breakfast.
Well, I'm going to. Where's the money Mum gave you?
Oh, no. I left it on the kitchen table.
Oh, well done. Shall we go for a swim?
OK. Can we leave our bags here?
Yes, they'll be OK. We can see them from the water.
Track 2.6. 1.
Can you tell me what happened?
It was terrifying. It was in the middle of the night, so we were in bed. Everything started to shake. A few moments later, the back of the house collapsed. We all rushed outside and stood in the street. Luckily, no one was injured.
And this place is now your home?
Yes, we came here yesterday. The church has been very helpful. We have food and water and a roof over our heads, but we've lost everything.
2.
There's been virtually no rain in the region for the past 2 years. Normally it's very rainy at this time of year, but the last rain was 2 months ago. My charity raises money from abroad. My job is to spend it on food and drinking water, but we urgently need more. The government here provides some food and water, but it isn't enough. Politicians make promises, but they often break them.
3.
Did you see that fire on the news last night in California?
No. Was anyone killed?
I don't think so, but it destroyed a lot of houses. The pictures were shocking. The fire moved so fast.
Oh, how did it start?
Somebody lit a fire in the forest.
So it wasn't an accident?
Well, it was, actually. They were going to have a barbecue.
That was a bit stupid, in the middle of a heat wave. Did they find the people who started it?
Yes, they were the ones who phoned the emergency services.
4.
Scientists said last year that it was going to erupt. Well, it finally erupted a couple of days ago, and lava poured down the mountain. It destroyed a village, and sadly, a number of people lost their lives. You can still see lava coming out of the ground high up on the mountain, and clouds of smoke are still pouring from the top. But it isn't as bad as it was yesterday.
Track 2.7.
Global warming fact file. The Earth is heating up. The average surface temperature is 0.75 degrees Celsius higher now than it was 100 years ago. When we burn fossil fuels, they give off greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, CO2. This causes global warming. We have cut down over 50% of the Earth's rainforests in the last 60 years. These are important because they remove CO2 from the atmosphere and add oxygen. They are also home to over half of the world's plant and animal species. Some scientists believe that by 2050, about 35% of all plant and animal species could die out because of climate change. Sea levels are rising and the polar ice caps are melting. Scientists say that fossil fuels like coal and gas may run out by the year 3000, so we need to develop alternatives such as renewable energy and nuclear energy.
Track 2.8.
In February 2007, Eva Wisniewska, a German paraglider, was in Australia with other paragliders preparing for the World Championships. One morning, as they were getting ready to take off, they noticed a thunderstorm approaching. However, they decided to carry on. As the best paragliders, they were skillful enough to keep away from some dark clouds. Unfortunately, as the competitors took off, the weather quickly got worse. Despite Ava's attempt to escape, two enormous clouds came together and trapped her. They pulled her up inside the storm like a leaf in the wind. She flew higher and higher. It was dark and I could hear lightning all around me. She reached nearly 10,000 meters higher than the top of Mount Everest and then lost consciousness. At that height, the temperature was about minus 40 degrees Celsius and there was very little oxygen. Death seemed certain. For 40 minutes, Ava was unconscious. Waking up, she was still inside the storm. It was dark and hailstones as big as tennis balls were flying past. But fortunately, her glider, which was spinning above her head, was still in one piece. Eventually, Ava came out of the storm cloud and landed safely near a small farm. When her team reached her, she was 60 kilometers away from the place where she took off. She was weak and covered in ice, but alive. Ava was the luckiest woman in the world. There's no logical reason why she survived. Ava had frostbite on her ears and legs, but a few days later, she competed in the World Championships.
Track 2.9. 1.
In the first photo, I can see a busy river market. There are lots of people selling things on boats. In the second photo, I can see a street market at night. It can't be in Britain because some of the shop signs aren't in English. In the foreground, a young man and woman are walking along the street. In the background, there are a few other people. Both photos show people selling things. One obvious difference is that the first photo is taken during the day and the second photo is taken at night. In the first photo, it must be quite warm because some people are wearing t-shirts. But in the second photo, it must be a cold night because the people are wearing winter coats and scarves. In the first photo, the people look very busy. Some of them are chatting together. They probably know each other. In the second photo, the man and woman are probably feeling cold, but not unhappy.
2.
In the first photo, I can see a big crowd of people in a very wide street. They're standing on the pavement and they're watching a parade. There are lots of flags. The second photo shows lots of people in boats at a river market. They are selling fruit and vegetables. Some of them are chatting. The main difference between the photos is that the people in the first photo are enjoying themselves. Maybe it's a public holiday. Whereas in the second photo, the people are working. The weather seems quite similar in both photos. It's not really cold, as there are people in t-shirts, and it's not really hot, as some people are wearing jumpers or jackets. I can't really see the expressions on the faces of the people in the photos, but I imagine in the first photo they're happy, as they are at a festival and the weather is fine. In contrast, in the second photo, the people are working, so I imagine they are not quite so happy. But they look quite relaxed and they don't seem unhappy.
Track 2.10.
In the first photo, I can see a big crowd of people in a very wide street. They're standing on the pavement and they're watching a parade. There are lots of flags. The second photo shows lots of people in boats at a river market. They are selling fruit and vegetables. Some of them are chatting. The main difference between the photos is that the people in the first photo are enjoying themselves. Maybe it's a public holiday. Whereas in the second photo, the people are working. The weather seems quite similar in both photos. It's not really cold, as there are people in t-shirts, and it's not really hot, as some people are wearing jumpers or jackets. I can't really see the expressions on the faces of the people in the photos, but I imagine in the first photo they're happy, as they are at a festival and the weather is fine. In contrast, in the second photo, the people are working, so I imagine they are not quite so happy. But they look quite relaxed and they don't seem unhappy.
Track 2.11.
Today, we are talking to Yuka Tanaka, professor in meteorology, who has been researching the impacts of El Niño and the effect that global warming might have on future El Niño events. Yuka, what can you tell us about your research?
Well, we know that El Niño events have become more severe over the past 25 years. The 2015 event contributed to a record number of typhoons in the Central Pacific. 16 were recorded that year, and it is estimated that over 60 million people suffered from hunger and malnutrition in 2016 due to droughts influenced by El Niño.
And are they getting worse because of global warming?
It's possible, yes, and it's likely to affect the events in the future. What we don't know is whether the events will become stronger or more frequent.
So, what can we do to prepare for the next El Niño?
Well, the good thing is that scientists can predict when they are coming, and we can prepare. It's important to give early warnings to communities. Having an evacuation plan is essential. And of course, in the long term, this is just another reason why we all need to focus on global warming and do everything we can to stop it getting worse.
Track 2.12.
Hello, and thank you for asking me to come and speak to you today. I'd like to start by telling you about how I became a space scientist. I spent a lot of time as a child staring out of my window at the night sky. I also read books from the library and learned all about the planets. I used to stand in the garden and point out the names of the planets to my very patient parents. Science wasn't really my favourite subject when I was at school. I preferred maths. I also played the violin very well, and I thought that music might be my future career. But then I went to the Science Museum in London. There was an exhibition about space travel and also a film about shooting stars. I thought it was amazing that most of the shooting stars we see are meteoroids. That night, I saw a shooting star. I was so excited I decided right then that I would be a space scientist. I worked hard at school and studied physics at university. After that, I worked as a research assistant at different universities in Britain and later in Japan. People ask me how to become a space scientist. Well, it doesn't matter too much which university you go to, but you need to get the best science degree you can. Follow your dreams and don't give up.